Now, there's been several subject matters once the presidency changed, and depending on what the not well, it wasn't exclusive to what the president did, the presidential change, but there was stuff that the mainstream, definitely when it came to the corporate press, that you could say that was deemed as conspiracy. Hell, in a lot of cases, you got banned from platforms, you got shunned, you got demonetized, and all sorts of things. And there's things that turned out to be either at least worth looking into, not conclusive as what they pretended to be, certainly when it came to the Modelo virus 19. And this whole idea, which was always moronic, that you couldn't contradict the public health experts and be deemed as like correct, was always nonsense, because none of them have monopoly on the truth. But let's talk about this. The elephant in the room, which I don't think we've done a video about it yet. We know Fauci, for example, kind of was willing to publicly say that, okay, he wants to hear it out. What is the origin story of, since we're comic book guys, the origin story of the Modelo virus? And, you know, you had the Trumps of the world and others who said it looked like it was something that came out of a lab. How it got out, was it deliberately let out? I think that's a completely different story. But some people assume that it came from, or like there was no proof of that. They would say that it was a positive claim that you just couldn't make by any means. And they acted it as if it was conclusive that it didn't happen in the way that the guys like, again, Trumps of the world and everybody else. Now, that narrative has started to change, and now you're seeing people say that, well, okay, maybe it did, but we can't for sure say that it did not. And here's something that I want to watch real quick. I believe one of the press secretaries, I don't know if she's the new press secretary or what have you, talking about China and the involvement of the Modelo virus 19. Let's see what she has to say.
Another question on COVID. The language that you all use specifically mentioned an accident. Does that mean that you've ruled out, or the IC has ruled out, that it was deliberate or not an accident?
We haven't ruled out anything yet. Again, we're going to go through this, this redoubling down of a 90-day review, and we'll have more to share.
So the reason, I know that sounds like nothing, but the reason why something like that is important, definitely when it's coming from this knothead president of y'all's and his administration, the reason why that's so, the press secretary got tokenized, but literally, no, that's what Jen Psaki was even saying when she was talking about her stepping down. She was literally referring to like diversity and other people's voices being heard and stuff like that. So yeah, it's literal tokenization. Nonetheless, another redhead, again, another tokenized red. You ain't nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. But no, seriously. It may not seem like that's important, but it is, because it's a shift in what the acceptable narrative was. Of course, unfortunately, a lot of this stuff gets politicized, because they set it on like more these, it's not even ideological, it's like party lines, right? Where it's like, okay, well, these types of people think this way and these types of people think this way. And you saw certain issues as pertains to the Modelo virus, certain issues were divisive in that regards. And they drew those lines in the sand. And one of those that they applied to the quote unquote right wing was the idea that, yes, it was it didn't happen naturally. It did happen in a leak throughout like some sort of Chinese lab in a Wuhan laboratory, and it was deliberate. The reason why it's so important now is that now they're saying that they have not, which is, again, it's a little different language coming from generally that side and the folks that generally support, Joe Biden. Now the administration themselves, they're saying, oh, well, we haven't concluded that didn't happen. we don't know. We're still looking this over. That's a pivot, guys. That's a pivot. That's a deviation. Now, again, why that is the case, I'm going to leave that up to you guys to decide. Was it true all along? I mean, that's kind of how you have to approach these sorts of things. I know it's maybe weird, but you got to understand. It's like this with the virus, for example. You know how you had the experts say that, like with the CDCs of the world, they said that you couldn't go out if you had been vaccinated, if you got the jab, you still needed to social distance, whether you were in outdoors, and you had to still cover your face with a diaper. Now that changed, right? And definitely recently we know they said, well, it's fine if you're vaccinated. You don't have to social distance. You don't have to continue to wear a mask. They said that. You need to understand that what's true doesn't change based upon what they said. What was true or what actually happened always actually happened. It's just their analysis, or rather how they were analyzing the situation, is what was adjusted. But the truth was still the truth regardless. So that's when it gets interesting, when you see this pivot. And of course, now it becomes more acceptable to theorize about the origin of this. Was it deliberate? Did it happen naturally? Was it transmitted by way of the animals? Or was it something that was, let's say, manufactured? It's worth obviously taking into consideration. But the problem is they dismissed the idea before as if there was no way that could happen. You've seen like I know we went through it on another show, and we went through some of the headlines of like the CNN, some of the corporate press headlines, and they was like, this is just false. Anybody that claims that this was the case is just false. Well, now they're at minimum, entertaining the idea that is what happened. And it's not conclusive that it didn't, rather, which again was always the case. So whatever comes out of this, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what's going to come out of this. But whatever comes out of it, whatever the truth was or what happened, and this is what's key for you to remember, that happened. How they analyzed it or what they allowed you to know or what they said was true is a completely different thing. But what actually happened is what happened. So if they do pivot and then they find out that, let's say if it wasn't even deliberate, let's say that it was an accident that happened, it did come out of a Chinese lab, that happened, right? That you would have, if that is to be what happened, again, not confirming, but if that was to be what happened, that's always what happened. The truth does not rest upon what these folks say. The interesting thing, though, however, is that they've now pivoted on what it is that they will accept. But the hilarious thing of it all, and I end on this note, it's not like they're going to change anything. If you got your channel demonetized, you got your stuff taken down because you said something contrary to what the public experts had said when they deemed you as a conspiracy theorist, it's not like they're going to lift them restrictions. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.